and we still don't seem to have a solution to what is clearly going to be a problem.
Yeah, it's not a surprise. We've known this was going to come.
Yeah.
Actually, Mark Rowley is choosing to hide behind the European Convention of Human Rights, Article 10 and 11, and he's choosing to interpret the Public Order Act and the Crime and Disorder Act in the most lenient way.
Yeah.
There's been a letter issued by top KCs and lawyers, including Lord Panic, you always see at the Supreme Court, saying that this does meet the threshold of being a serious disorder threat. Now, look, let's make no bones about this. It's utterly despicable and reprehensible that this protest, which is in part organised, let's remember, by Hamas supporters
of course it is.
and activists, is going ahead on Armistice Day. It's insulting to Britain. It's a slap in the face to those veterans who fought for the very freedoms that are being used and abused to undermine our culture and our civilization. But I'm actually a free speech fundamentalist. And I equally support the rights of those who are concerned about Islamic liberalism to go on a protest carrying pictures of Muhammad and potentially even burning the Quran if they choose to do so. And if I support that right, I have to support the right of protest, so long as they are policed effectively and strongly. And also, there should be a ban on anything in central London. This is the key thing. The current march route is from Hyde Park from Marble Arch down to Hyde Park Corner. That's within an easy walk of the Cenotaph. And there are easily going to be splinter groups that will go there. Now, if you're going to, you can easily put a ban in place for around a 2-hour walk zone around the Cenotaph. And if people are more than 2 hours away, then I think that can pass peacefully.
You can.
As long as it happens later in the day. The thing is, the protesters are gathering at around 11 a.m. because the march starts at 12 p.m. Now, you're going to have thousands of people in Hyde Park when we should all be standing in silence. And
they won't be using the silence for anything other than shouting. I'm sure that that's what they'll do because they'll see it as an opportunity. And you know, I accept that some people like yourself are free speech fundamentalists, but in the end, what these people are doing, as I said in my little speech there, is that they're using our kind of tolerance and they're using our good nature, if you like, to basically take the mickey out of it and to say, well, we don't really care. You give us the right to do this, so we're going to do it. And everybody can see that if there are going to be counter-protests by other groups of people, whether they be veterans, whether they be people who just feel fed up that this march thing has gone too far, you know, the police cannot possibly say that there won't be trouble. They must know. And I've also been talking to some servicemen and veterans myself, and they've been told if they're coming to any services on Saturday, it might be wise for them not to wear their medals, and it might be wise for them not to wear any sort of regalia while they're walking around in public. And that, to me, on an Armistice weekend, is an absolute nightmare. Ridiculous thing to have to say to people.
Well, I'm fortunate to have 2 medals, which I will be wearing on Armistice Day, and I will be going down there for this occasion. But you're quite right. We are having our rights and freedoms abused and used to undermine our culture and civilization. And this really goes to show you why this isn't actually about Palestine.
Of course,
because when you get Islamic fundamentalists and BLM and the socialist worker allying together,
and Just Stop Oil,
this is about much more. This is about hatred not only for Israel and the Jews, but more broadly for Britain and the West and for our values.
Well, there's no question that there are people in this country, some of whom may have been born here, but many of whom have come here from elsewhere, who don't at all appreciate British values, who don't at all appreciate British tradition or British culture, and who don't see that we should commemorate in any way anything that our armed forces have done. And in fact, quite the reverse. They probably think that we should be, you know, paying them reparations and saying sorry for having killed people during some world wars.
Well, Mike, you couldn't be more correct on this issue. And I just want us all to please spare a thought for those World War II veterans who are still alive and who've marched down Whitehall proudly and solemnly on so many occasions. And they must be forgiven for thinking, is this actually the Britain that we fought to defend?
Yeah, exactly right. And I mean, there's also Section 40 of the Police Act. Lawyer Stephen Barrett has quoted this. In those circumstances where the police is failing to discharge its function in regulating protests, the Home Secretary can demand special measures and get the march banned. But all day today, I've been hearing people sort of demonising Suella Braverman for calling this a hate march, and people actually defending it and say, well, I don't think it is a hate march. Well, I think it very clearly is a hate march. Maybe not everybody in it is hateful, but there are hateful things which emerge from every single march that I've seen, and every single march that I've seen also ends up in a punch-up with the police.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying that every single person on that protest is hateful or anti-Semitic, but let's not deny that at its core, this is a deeply anti-Semitic and it's an anti-Israeli protest rather than a pro-Palestine protest.
Well, all of the people that I've seen being asked questions about what they're on that march to do have at the very least said that they think Israel should not be attacking Gaza. They don't think that Israel has the right to exist. Many of them think that Israel should be wiped off the map. They chant from the river to the sea in very large numbers, and whether or not they support Hamas, as you say, the marches are being put together by groups of people who are Hamas affiliated.
Yeah, and never forget, Hamas was born out of the Muslim Brotherhood, which was a deeply anti-Semitic, Nazi-sympathizing organization that sent Muslims to the Nuremberg rallies of Hitler, that translated Mein Kampf into My Jihad, and that actually the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, long before the creation of the State of Israel, met with Hitler and helped to organize a Nazi SS Muslim brigade to kill Jews in the Balkans.
Right.
You know, this hatred towards the Jews long predates the creation of the State of Israel. So those people who are going on these marches thinking this is all about 1948, what happened after that, are just useful idiots for the anti-Semitic cause, and it needs to be called out. And just contrast this protest with what we saw a few days ago in Parliament Square, when Jewish groups and their supporters gathered together. No face masks, no hidden identity, no intimidation, no aggression, holding Union flags and singing God Save the King. Now, if these protesters on Saturday want to show us that they are truly humanitarian and respectful, they'd be wearing poppies in Hyde Park at 11 a.m. and they would be, well, waving Union flags and having a 2-minute silence.
I'll give you a little quiz. How many of the people who are on this march on Saturday do you think will be wearing a poppy?
Well, I think zero is the answer
Zero,
to that.
I think, is the answer to that. Let's talk now to British Army veteran Colonel